while we read. Speak of angels. And they flap their wings.
So I see the guy who interfered with the RFP process to buy buses by having ongoing communication with one vendor after the RFP was issued, and who was prepared to take that.
Excuse me, have the press got a copy of this letter?
Everybody had an opportunity to read that? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I'd just like to comment that this is very helpful, and that right at the very end they talk about doing that they're eager to develop this into an expression of interest. It's well said. I also had the privilege of having an instructor from this from the Marine Corps stay with me this summer, and he had nothing but positive comments about the future of this and also about working here in Owen Sound. He lives in St. Catharines, but he was here working in the area that was the simulator. And so I have lots of good thoughts about this.
Councillor Lemon.
Well, to me, this is one of those projects that's outside the box, but bears definite need for support. Georgian College and post-secondary education is vital to this community, and I certainly understand that fully, having gone to school in Guelph at the university there and seen the impact that the university has had on the community of Guelph and the number of jobs created directly and indirectly. As a case in point, the large artificial insemination units that were developed at the University of Guelph now are in the private sector around Guelph, and that is a multi-million-dollar-a-year industry. And it's one that's quite interesting in that 90%, I think it is, or 85% of the product that they derive is actually exported from Canada, bringing needed export dollars in. With this training here, it may enable Georgian to not only train Canadian and Ontario students and local students, but also offshore students, bringing new cash sources to the community. And I would make a motion at this time that the City of Owen Sound support this project as the item that we're going to bid for that funding. I believe this is the kind of opportunity we need. It's going to benefit our local students, it's going to benefit our local college, but in the end, it's going to benefit the whole community. And that is my motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lemon. We have lots of speakers, I'm sure. I'm just waiting to see who wants to speak first. A suggestion, Councillor Lemon. Well, I do believe that the Marine Emergency Duty Training Program is certainly the priority for the Small Communities Fund, and many signals indicate that, in fact, it does qualify for that particular funding envelope. I'm wondering if, as a backup, in the event that it would not qualify, one of the two other projects, A or B, would be an appropriate backup project should the funding not apply to the Marine program. And I say that in knowing that and understanding from Mr. Becking last night that only one project is allowable for applicants. Just a thought, yeah.
I have no problem having backup situations, but I want to make sure that our efforts go into the Georgian College application and our primary efforts. Yes, the second sewage digester is something we need. But on the other hand, in the process of redoing the sewage plant, we are rebuilding the primary one that we have now. That's part of the process which has been approved. And that is in the plan. I believe we're putting a new roof and a new membrane on it. And I don't have any problem with the secondary, but I want to send a very, very clear motion that this is the primary direction of the city, that this is our greatest desire to see happen. Grey County has already come on board, and it would be very, very a great disservice to the college if we were not on board, and certainly they're going to make us look like some people who don't understand the value of Georgian College. And historically, the city has gone out on a limb a number of times for Georgian to aid in the development of the college. There's a significant investment there. I don't know how many millions it is, but I know it's in the tens of millions in that equipment. The simulators are the most incredible things I've ever been on. And when I was told before we went there that some people almost get seasick on them, I could understand that, the way they work. They're so real. And this fire med training, the other thing to consider is if we get this, that may lead to other emergency service training, which be even a greater benefit to the community, because once you've got one, it's not hard to move into some of the others. And so I'm going to leave my motion clean, Your Worship.
Sure.
But that does not preclude a secondary motion saying that these are our follow-up positions. But I want to make it abundantly clear to staff that this is the thing we're pushing. This is the thing that's going to spell economic benefits to the community. This is the thing that's going to create jobs. And I think we have to pick our battles carefully, but I think this, I would like to leave it clean at this time, that our primary focus will be on the fire med system, and a secondary focus, if that is, I don't mind if we go after another if we don't get it. I don't want to say, no, we won't take whatever it is, 700,000 for the sewage digester, whatever the number was. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I want the message to be clean and clear, and that's why I want the motion to stand as is.
Sure. So, any other speakers for some clarification? I think there's a little bit of confusion what I'm hearing. Councillor Twaddle.
I have some questions and then some comments. If there are all these indications that both senior levels of government support this project, and it's one that would be looked on favorably, and the program does seem to encompass training centers, why is it that the city has to be the one who applies for the funding? Even though there's no dollars to the city, it's our application and it would be flow through. I'm assuming that the county's not eligible for these programs. Is that correct?
The county can submit an application under both programs.
So if the county's already putting up $2 million and Georgian College is willing to put up $400,000, why isn't the application coming from the county? I think that's one question to ask. Another question to ask, looking forward, is that this is a $7.2 million project. If it's successful, what are the implications for the success of another grant from the city going forward in the next 2 or 3 years? This is a piece that I think we need to understand. I mean, we all know that politics come to play in some of these decisions, and do you look at this and say, Owen Sound, you've had your share, even though it didn't directly benefit the city. It certainly has an indirect benefit, and I'm not in any way arguing against the value of this project. I want to understand what the implications are. And I mean, why can't the college apply directly? Why can't? Because in previous infrastructure funding, municipalities were eligible, but also other organizations were eligible to apply for funding. So that's another question. And then we have to look at our own needs too, particularly if this is going to preclude us from having access to some significant funding for several years. We know that we're facing, and I forget the exact number, but just for linear infrastructure, about a $2 million annual deficit. We know that we had extensive road damage, winter damage to the roads last winter, somewhere in the $1 to $2.5 million range. None of these issues has really been addressed so that we can make a balanced decision here. I certainly support the College Training Center. I think it's great. The simulator and the marine navigation program have been absolutely tremendous assets to the college and the community. I think this would just significantly increase that enhancement. I think it's a wonderful project. I don't have any criticism of it. But I'm wondering if it is the most financially responsible decision for this council to make. And that's where I'm torn, really. And why is it the city, the one who has to make the application? And if, having made the application, it's going to limit our ability to meet some of the really pressing needs that we have. And we've got the 5-year capital budget that was made available to us with a long list of projects that we can't get to and that keep getting extended as well, that are just as important in the long term. My final comment is that I don't believe the digester and the Georgian College Training Center are being proposed for the same program. The Georgian College Training Center would be proposed for the, forgive me if I'm wrong, BCF, SMF, and the digester would be OCIF, is that correct? Yeah, so it's not either the digester or the Georgian College Training Center. It's either the Georgian College Training Center, or we've had two small projects put forward as alternatives, but there's a whole lot more here that we haven't even considered. And so those are the concerns I raise, and I'm not even saying that I'm opposed to submitting the application. I just wonder why it has to be us, and I think we really need to understand what the implications might be for funding opportunities in the next term of council, and are we going to handcuff the next council in terms of how much capital money they might have access to? I think we need to understand those things before we make a decision.
Sure. I'm going to go to the Director of Financial Services in terms of these expressions of interest.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've certainly, staff has been on the phones this morning working our various contacts with the ministries. Our understanding is that the college cannot apply directly to this program. They need for lack of a better word, a municipal partner. I know county staff are working on the very same proposals for county council on projects they'd like to put forward. Certainly, we've also been in discussion with them. So they have the same needs the city has and are considering that. In fairness to the county, I guess if you look at the math, they're contributing and are being part of the county $2 million to the Georgian College project, quite a sum of money in their scheme of things. And to also put in for one of these projects, they'd be in fact donating the possibility of another $4.8 million in funding. So there is some financial sense why they're in for $2 million cash, but they'd also be foregoing perhaps other worthwhile projects. So I think the county, that's probably part of their reasoning why they're looking at other projects. The college cannot apply, they need a partner. We have been on the phone quite a bit this morning with various contacts, seeing exactly how this might work. At this time, I think it's fair to say we're uncertain, but we're certainly working that aspect all we can to find out for council. If you go with the Georgian College route, if that's your decision, will it work? We'll have that answer probably by the end of this week. But this program is very new to everyone. Our contacts, although are well connected, certainly are having to get answers for us as well.
So just to make it clear, we'll know by the end of this week whether us applying for the Georgian College project, whether it would be accepted as an expression of interest, whether it would clear the first gate. So we'll know before the deadline whether this is the project that we would be committed to.
We'll know whether, in our contact's opinion, it would qualify.
Okay.
I'm hoping by the end of this week, again, they're being inundated with other requests from 350 municipalities asking
Yeah, I
similar
appreciate
questions.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a number of speakers. Thank you for that explanation as well. Councillor Adair and then Councillor Wright.
Well, I appreciate Councillor Lemon's motion, but I think we're talking about two totally separate funding sources here that are completely different and have different criteria. And I'm not sure if the intention is that we deal with these two funding sources separately, and that we deal with the Georgian College through the BCF funding, and we deal with the biodigester or something else through the OCIF funding. I think there's some confusion because the recommendation is, here are these two granting proposals and staff think we should put this in, and now we're just talking about one of them, but I think we might be talking about both of them. So I would seek some clarification on what we're talking about.
Motion on the floor, as I understand it. Councillor Lemon, we'll go back to you.
The motion on the floor was contemplating that we were using the one source of funding.
Which one?
BSC, I believe is, sorry, yeah, BCF-SCF funding for the 7.2 million as was in the report. I am not precluding the others. That's item number 2 in the report. I'm not precluding the others under the OCIF. I'm getting sick and tired of acronyms for everything. But I want them as two separate motions because I think I want to make it very clean. It's not an effort to muddy the water at all because the next motion I would expect is that we would apply for the OCIF funding for the sewage treatment plant, the new digester at the plant. I'm well aware of the need for a backup. I have no question about that, but that's a different funding opportunity, and that's why number 2 in the recommendations, the $7.2 million for the funding of the Marine Fire Training Center under the New Building Canada Fund, Small Communities Fund, BCF-SCF. If we find out it's not eligible for that, then we can look at other things that we may want, such as doing the river precinct or the taxiway at Billy Bishop. I'm not opposed to that, but I want to focus on trying to get this one, which is going to do the greatest good for the greatest amount of the community.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much. I'm going to refer back to Councillor Twaddle's questions and thank Mr. Ritchie for his answer, because that's basically it. This morning, County Councillor Mr. Wepler was explaining to the county councillors why the $2 million donation or the $2 million commitment to Georgian College was going to turn into a $2 million donation to the city of Owen Sound. And the reason for that to happen, and it is a donation to the city of Owen Sound that the county would be making in order for the city to put application in for this. Mr. Wepler also said that he had talked to Minister Duguid's office and as well as to the Ministry of Intergovernmental Affairs. Both the minister and the ministry asked what role the city of Owen Sound was playing in all of this. And it's vitally important that Owen Sound be playing part of this in order for them to accept it. And when Mr. Wepler said that Owen Sound was preparing to apply for the grant, they thought that was fine, and he expected to have an answer this afternoon. And if he does, he's going to get in touch with us right away. We also talked about the $250,000 a year over 10 years and how that money would be sorted out so that we would have our money. And I expect an answer back on that as well, that the county may have to pay the full amount to the city and then take a debenture out on the rest of the money. But that's got to be sorted out. The other reason, of course, is that it's for us to apply. We get, I don't want to call it glory or anything like that, but we do get the fact that the city is supporting the college by making the application, even though it's not costing us any money whatsoever. The 1/3 that we have to put in will be made up by the $2 million donation, and it has to be called a donation, and the other 0.4 will be made up of the money that the Georgian College is raising. They expect to raise about $800,000, but we only need $400,000 to make that commitment, and they will be giving that money to us as well. So it's just one of those things that we need to be seen as supporting the college in order to get this Marine Training Center. I did hear earlier today about the federal government abdicating their authority, like they are giving up that and putting it on the taxpayer. This happens all the time. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the last. Both the provincial and the federal government do this to us all the time. So they're putting the money back in, but it's costing us money too. That seems the way they're operating now, and when it comes right down to it, all governments are doing the same because we're all struggling for money. And the fact that the provincial government is selling off their Lotto Ontario, a $2 billion money fund that comes into I can hardly believe it, but that's the way governments operate today. So I certainly am in support of this, and I understand why I believe it's necessary for the city to be backing the college on this.
Thank you. Councillor Twaddle.
Well, I'm all-
You were finished, okay. Any other, Councillor Purdon?
The motion on the floor is for the 7.2 million for the Marine Fire Training Center. And really thank Councillor Wright for that explanation as well. It's very helpful. I was at AMO with the mayor and the warden speaking with the minister about Georgian College. I think it's very important for the city to be very active. I do support this motion. I think it's how we demonstrate our commitment to the college now and the future. So I think it's a very important way of demonstrating that, but also it's a good partnership with the county and with the college. It really brings people together around a common and shared project. So I will be in support of this motion.
Any other speaker? Councillor Body.
Boy, 100 questions now. Councillor Wright just said that, if I understood her, that the county's donation of $2 million was based on us making this application?
No.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
Okay, I just want that.
The county has committed $2 million to the
Yep.
college, but with the college working with Wayne and the college, they have agreed to make it a donation to the city instead of giving it to the college.
Okay, good. I understand now. So that's just what route
Yes,
is.
yes.
Do we know if the college has any other funding sources from any level of government that they could apply for this project?
We don't know that, but we don't know whether they do or they don't, Councillor.
I can offer some information on that. The college has indicated in discussions, just informal discussions with me over dinner, they're looking at a significant contribution as well from industry. So the Canadian Great Lakes shipping industry is coming to the table as well, and they're of course exhausting every opportunity that they have at every source for college funding.
So private sources, okay, but we don't know if there's any other federal programs, provincial programs that they could apply for separate.
I wouldn't be aware of that.
We don't know. As I went through the list, and I'm sure all of us would have different points of view of whether we go through our $2+ million linear deficit and the things that we could go after. I look at this innovation, connectivity, and broadband, and think of the possibilities if every community in Southwest Economic Alliance that's trying to figure out broadband went after these programs at once, where we could have gotten with that. Obviously, that would take more than an afternoon to pull all the communities together. And if the Southwest Economic Alliance isn't moving forward, then it'd be nice to move forward on our own. And I look at that as being cash sitting there that I hope will be there in the future. This is supposed to be a continuing program from what I understand, but it isn't necessarily an annual program, as we've learned on different meeting a couple weeks ago. There's funding that is posted, and then it isn't necessarily a year or two later, they don't know, before the next funds become available. And as Councillor Twaddle has pointed out, that we don't know if we bid on this, if it affects, limits our ability to bid on the next opening, and there's no way that we would, no way the government of Ontario or the federal government's likely to tell us that. Boy, if I had my choice, I'd rather put it into connectivity and broadband and think about the economic development spin-off that we would have in our community. Having toured RBW and look at the speed it takes them. They can print off magazines in a night faster than they can download the information for it. It's not only job growth that we'd be able to do with broadband, but even the ability to retain some of our plants that do rely on high-speed fiber to bring things in, and allow us to stay on the same playing field, or hopefully near the same playing field as the Waterloos and Stratford and people that have taken this step. Given that we really don't know the possibilities of connectivity and broadband, and we don't have time to find out, I reluctantly support this. I think that we do have other capital expenditures. Boy, this building is, well, we can talk about that in number 3. So based on Councillor Lemon's motion, which is really just number 2, then I reluctantly would support it.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Everyone supports Georgian College. Everyone supports the Marine Fire Training Center. So let's, nobody's saying they don't, or nobody yet has said that, and I'm certainly not. What I don't understand and don't support, we have for years cried about an infrastructure deficit in this city. We probably will cry about that in years to come. We are being given an opportunity here to close that gap, and we're not taking it. We're handing it off to Georgian College. $2 million annual deficit. Every year, we're $2 million short. That's not a one-time number, that's an every year number. You know, Councillor Boddy just mentioned high-speed and broadband. I hadn't even considered that. That's a whole nother discussion, but we have, just go through this list. How much money does Harrison Park need? How much money does this building need? I don't know the numbers, but your guess is as good as mine. They're big. Mr. Webb is bringing a report to operations probably in the near future of the road damage from the last year and the deficit we have in our roads. I'm just talking paved roads. It's $1.5 million that somebody's going to get handed that report. And we now are spending $200,000, I believe, on roads, on pavement. Not this year, you're right. Not this year, we're not. You know, one of the projects that's sort of fallen off was the completion of the Big Dig, 2nd Avenue, from all the way down to the Bay Shore. That entire, the sewer, the water mains under there need to be replaced. The road needs to be reconstructed. You know, that whole redevelopment, and I can't, for the life of me, find the number in here or remember what it is, but it's big too, millions.
It's close to 7, I believe, Jim.
Oh, thank you. So, those are just some examples of our deficit. Of course we support Georgian College. I just don't understand why we, if this is to be an annual fund, and I know that can change at the drop of a hat, but it's supposed to be, wouldn't it make more sense to hold back until we actually find out if it's eligible? This thing isn't being built next week. If we were to apply in 2015, if we in fact found out it was eligible and stood a good chance of getting, we're wasting our chance here, we're using our chance, not wasting, using our chance here, and it might get turned down because it's just too much money. We're asking for $4.8 million in a city of 22,000 people. To think that doesn't have long-term implications for the city and isn't going to cost us anything is, well, I don't agree with that statement. They give us $4.8 million here. You think they're giving us $2 million next year? $2 million the year after that? Perhaps it's possible, but please, somebody, probably I won't be here, but phone me at home and tell me that I was wrong, because I'll be happy to have been wrong. It does have long-term implications for us. We don't even know if it's eligible. It isn't our project. We have a list as long as your arm of things we could be doing and should be doing. You know, I was surprised to even see it on the list. When did it get on the list? You know, I don't know how it got there. We have 10, 15, 20 priorities that we want to move on, and they're all our responsibility. They're all ours. Nobody else is going to help us out with. I mean, we've heard the comments from all the ministers on this, and Larry Miller when he was here on this training center. Their opportunity to find funding and complete this project is far greater than our opportunity to use our chance here And then next year, hope to goodness we can get some money for roads, or hope to goodness we can get, this is our chance, we're going to use it here. I don't support that. It has long-term implications for us. Is that it? Yeah, sorry. That's it. I don't think we should do it. We have far greater needs than this, for this, that are the city's responsibility. Why aren't we talking, the hospital asked us for money, why aren't we putting that in there? It's not eligible either, but might as well throw it in and see what happens. They wanted, what was it, 500,000? It's not our responsibility either, and council decided not to do that. Anyway, my biggest point is, if in fact it is eligible, there's always next year to apply for it. Right now, we're going to use our chance. Perhaps it's not eligible, perhaps it'll just get canned. We've lost our chance. And they're going to get the funding. They have other opportunities to get the funding. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Purdon and then Councillor Twaddle.
It's a question that, would we actually put in an application if we knew it was not going to be eligible? Like, I think that's the critical piece here. Is I certainly agree with Councillor McManaman that it would be silly to put in an application when there was a high risk that it wasn't, or we weren't sure it was eligible. I think my support of this motion is when we know it is eligible. We're still going to be competing with other communities, but it would need, I would need to know that it's an eligible project under the program to support this motion, and I was just making that assumption, so I do thank you, Councillor McManaman, for raising.
Through your worship, certainly if we as staff heard from our sources that it was not an eligible project, we would not put it in.
Or a risk of ineligibility?
Well,
I mean, I know it's a bit of a dance here.
You can't.
We certainly will do everything we can to explain to the decision makers exactly what this project entails, all of the contributors and how it will be working, and I am certain in working with them in the past, they would let us know whether it was eligible or not. They would not let us go ahead and then later. My experience has been they haven't done that in the past. I don't think they'd do it now. They would either say, yes, it's eligible. How risky it is, it's a competitive process, but I'm sure they would let us know whether it was eligible or ineligible before.
Okay. Councillor Twaddle.
So I was just going to clarify, we would support the Georgian College Training Center provisionally. We would then discuss what other project we might alternatively submit if we get a negative answer before the deadline. So we're not going to submit, if we support the Georgian College application, we're not going to submit that without knowing that reasonably that it will meet the criteria. So I think that one piece I think is addressed. So Councillor Lemon's motion is to support this, and the second motion would be pick a project if it doesn't qualify. And we should know, we're hoping to know by the end of this week.
That's right. Thank you. City Manager.
I do think, though, it has to be said that all of us have seen successful applications that we wondered how on earth they complied. So, you know, we're going to make our best effort to figure out, based on comments from other ministry levels, whether it is eligible or not. But Council, I can't say with any certainty that we're going to get a definitive answer on that. We're going to make our best judgment on that for you. But I could go back in time and show you projects that I have no clue how they ever met the eligibility, but they got funding.
And it is in fact a two-step process. So the first piece is, actually a three-step process. First piece is find out whether it's eligible. Second step is put in your expression of interest, and it may or may not be accepted. Third step is, if it's accepted and you do the full application, it still may not be accepted. So for that, the second two pieces of that risk apply no matter what. I don't know whether I'm being optimistic or it would, if the comments we're hearing anecdotally about political support at senior levels are any indication, then I would have reasonable hope that if it's deemed to fit the program, that it would survive the expression of interest and that it would actually get the funding, because if you can read between the lines, and that's often difficult, if you can read between the lines, it would seem to me that senior levels of government may well be looking for an envelope of money that they can reach into to fund the project that they otherwise support.
That's right.
That is an assumption, and we all know what assumptions do sometimes, so. Thank you.
Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to wrap this up. I will certainly support that we develop a secondary should we learn, which I don't expect we are, that this project is not eligible. I really feel this is the kind of risk we sometimes have to take. I'm well aware of the conditions of the roads. I'm well aware of the conditions of buildings in Harrison Park and everything else. But this is a big chunk of change, which will have a massive and positive impact on our community, not just on the short term during construction, because a large chunk of money, millions, will be spent on the in terms of labor, et cetera. It is also going to mean more students, more activity, and more opportunity. And I'm hoping that if we have the Marine Fire Training Center, that could lead to maybe a couple of other things and opportunities, and I believe it will. So I would also ask that, because this issue is so significant, that there be a recorded vote.
Thank you. Any further speakers to the motion? It's been a really, really healthy discussion, and I appreciate what each and every member of council has offered up here today, and recognize the incredible fiscal constraints that we are under. And I believe it was Councillor Wright who also said that so are all levels of government. And so we're looking at doing things so differently at every turn. You know, you get to a point where you can cut, frankly, too much, where you can make a municipality not attractive. It's part of our role, and I truly believe this as a municipal council, to provide opportunities for our residents and provide opportunities for our kids. Georgian College and this particular program, you can only look at it really as building blocks. So these are individual building blocks. This is one program that will protect the existing power engineering program in the long term and its existence in Owen Sound. This Marine Emergency Duty program also provides an opportunity, and I believe Councillor Lemon mentioned, that an opportunity for not only the Regional Recreation Centre, because there will be training that will be in-water training at the side of the harbor, as well as an agreement is being worked on between the college and the pool at the Regional Rec Centre for ongoing use of that for training, but as well as hundreds of room stays in local hotels, given the necessity of this training for mariners. If this program, my real concern, is that if this program does not locate at the Owen Sound campus of Georgian College, that program will leave this region. It will become, frankly, economically not viable for the industry to send their cadets to Eastern Canada or Western Canada if they're Great Lakes mariners. The dollars and cents don't make sense for them. So having it in Central Canada on the Great Lakes makes abundant sense for the industry, I think it provides another building block to expand the college, to continue to expand the course offerings that are available at the college, and I think it provides more opportunities for our kids. So now we'll call the question. Thank you.
Councillor Adair. In favor. Councillor Boddy.
In favor.
Councillor Chamberlain.
In favor?
Councillor Lemon.
In favor.
Councillor McManaman.
Opposed.
Councillor Purdon.
In favor?
Councillor Twaddle.
In favor.
Councillor Wright.
In favor.
And Mayor Haswell.
In favor.
Thank you. That motion passes with 8 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. Further items in the recommendations. Councillor McManaman.
Could I ask that Georgian College maybe come and give a presentation about this if we're committing to this now? We've, as a council, have never heard anything or heard very much about that, and I appreciate your comments a minute ago, but I think it'd be helpful if there's a lot of information on here that I wasn't aware of, and I'm not sure everyone was. So could I ask, or I guess I'd make a motion that we ask Georgian College to make a deputation to council about the training center?
Absolutely. Consider it done. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Councillor Purdon.
I was just going to speak to that. It is true, the Economic Development Committee did have a presentation on the plans and the concerns about this project. So other members of council have not had the privilege of hearing that information.
And I must say thank you for bringing that forward, because we have had so many tours of Georgian College with so many different organizations that certainly I'm sure that the principals of Georgian College would be more than happy to come to the city and do a presentation here at City Council as well. We'll make that happen right away. To the balance of the recommendations, what's council's direction on these items? Councillor Lemon and Councillor Purdon.
Your Worship, I will make a motion of number 1, that we support the OCIF funding for the new digester at the wastewater treatment plant. And that, I believe, is that 90% funding, or is that one? Yeah. The cost would reduce the cost to the local taxpayers to $220,000, which would be good news. Wayne would smile if we could get 100% funding, but unfortunately, those days are long since past. That is my motion.
Discussion to the motion. So it's item number 1, Councillor Lemon? Yes. 2.2 million for funding? Okay. Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Your Worship. To Mr. Becking, the Wastewater Treatment Plant Committee made a recommendation about, and maybe Councillor Trott will remember the number, somewhere around $400,000 to retrofit, if that's the right word, the existing digester. How would this motion affect that?
It frankly doesn't. You still have to upgrade or refurbish the existing digester. A digester is essentially a pressure vessel. It has to be tested just like a boiler is on a regular basis to ensure that it can contain the gases and so forth. That digester is 40 years old, and even if you don't approve this motion to refurbish that digester, take it down, fix it, test it, haul the sludge away until you can get it back up, is going to cost you more than the $220,000 that is the local share here. The hauling of the sludge alone is in excess of $250,000, and you'll burn that up in about 3 months. So actually, this represents a more favorable alternative for the municipality in the long term.
Yeah.
Just clarify, you mean the 250 during the retrofit? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And these things should be done every 5 years. And when you have 2 digesters, you can change the valving so that everything goes into the one digester while you've got the other one down, and vice versa, and they work back and forth. In any process plant that you have, you typically have two systems, two parallel systems, for that very reason, because if you have a failure in one, you still have to maintain your operational capability. And so I would suggest that the city has been operating on borrowed time for the last 40 years. You've been damn lucky.
How many years?
40.
Go ahead, Councillor McMahon.
Well, you had me right till the end. I would disagree with you on that point. 1979, they talked about a second digester and didn't approve it. Anyway, I don't want to, not to get in an argument. I'm not saying it's a bad project. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just wondering, given the plan that the wastewater treatment plant committee had moving forward, if it is still our highest priority, acknowledging that it's not in any way saying it's not important, but anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Councillor Boddy, then Councillor Lemon.
Just following up to this, didn't we discuss that the second digester would be a slightly different system? It ran hotter, there's different words. Was that the digester?
Thermophilic.
And that would also reduce the final shipping of sludge over the long run, and so there's long-term savings with that as well?
That's correct, Councillor. The process will reduce, I guess, the character of the sludge by 15 to 20%, and thereby there'd be a longer-term savings in terms of dewatering and so forth, and also in disposal. It could be used in relation to composting operations and so forth, where otherwise that wouldn't be the case.
We're currently shipping some cake to Lystec.
Yes, we drew down the storage tanks.
Okay.
In order to get us through the winter until the new storage tank is constructed. Inherent with the refurbishment plan also is the intent to have to haul this stuff away. Right. If that weren't the case, because we had a second digester, then it would be simply a matter of revalving it to send it to the new digester while the old digester was down.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Councillor Lemon.
Just to finish this up, this thermophilic digester was in the original plan. We couldn't afford it and get the 60% funding. I think we got a 66% funding. 1/3 province, 1/3 feds, 1/3 us. And the design is already there for this in the plans, from my understanding of attending the meetings. And also, we've got the space for it. So this is ready to go. And to me, I disagree with the comment. I agree with the comment, we've been at risk. Because if the digester fails, I do not want to know how much it's going to cost the city to haul that material away. Having two and a parallel backup system is very, very desirable. And we also have that in the water treatment plant, where if part of it goes down, we can go to another part. This is just common sense, in my estimation, to do this, and this is appropriate use, and hopefully it will attract federal money, as that we are going to upgrade the output of our plant. And I understand that the effluent from the thermophilic can be used in areas where you cannot use the current sludge that we take away.
Through you, Your Worship, I agree with the councillor's comments.
Thank you. And where are we at with the motion? We've got the motion. Everybody ready? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Twaddle.
Well, we need to have a backup for the BCF, SMF proposal. two have been suggested. One is the River Precinct project, the other is the new taxiway at the Billy Bishop Airport. There may be other projects that, sorry, maybe Mr. Becky, did you want to?
Your Worship, I just noticed an error in the report, and just so that council is clear about what they're voting on. If you refer to page 5 of my report, there's a table at the bottom, and it says River Precinct Phase 1 and 2. The $700,000 is only for Phase 1.
Yeah. Thank you.
So is there a reason why we wouldn't apply for both phases?
If I could, Your Worship, through to Councillor Twala, one of the things that I've heard pretty consistently from our Director of Finance is that we don't have a lot of money right now. Our borrowing is being maxed out in large part. Not in any way that we couldn't apply for more borrowing capacity, but Council has indicated in the past that you don't want to borrow more than for the major projects we have today. So that's part of that. In turning to things like road reconstruction, we have two very major projects that are going to happen next year and the year after. And we really looked at it from a staff perspective that we didn't have the capacity within our staff complement to do more projects in the next 2 years. So that's why you don't see those projects here. So when we were sorting and sifting through what we've heard from council are high priorities, and there is a resolution of council, I believe, that says that the River Precinct should be a priority project. So that was the thinking behind these. The airport one we put in there if you felt you didn't want to borrow a lot of money, because the airport people are saying they would cover that cost in some way. And it's a fairly small one if you thought a small project was more appropriate. So we're just trying to give you some choices. So that's I think covers off essentially our thought process. We can certainly hear other proposals, and they all have merit.
So one of the things that was running through my mind, and I certainly support the River Precinct project. I think that's an important piece for the downtown. I think it does have the chart on a couple of pages earlier doesn't indicate any health and safety or environmental features or impacts, but in fact I think it creates a safer pedestrian and traffic environment at 9th Street and 1st Avenue East, and at 8th Street and 1st Avenue West around the galleries. I believe also, but I can't remember whether it's Phase 1 or Phase 2, there is some work on the underground storm water management, that sort of thing, and work into the riverbank. So it does fit those two areas. But if we were going to use health and safety and environmental impacts as a concern, one of the projects that I was thinking about, and I think Councillor Boddy made oblique reference to it, is this building. This building is a money pit into which we throw money paying energy costs. We've got single glazed windows. We've got an HVAC system that really doesn't work efficiently, and I'm sure could be much improved. And if we were to look at a project that would, take this building and do a couple of the really big expensive pieces that would make the building much more habitable for a longer period of time and would have both health and safety and environmental impacts, it would be a new HVAC system, new window glazing, stormwater diversion, because it's never been a priority in our annual program. It's entirely possible that a good piece of the cost could be paid for out of energy savings. I don't know, we probably don't have time to think that piece through, but I think with an opportunity like that, that's the only way this building is ever going to get any sense of priority And we all know we're asking a lot of staff to work in inconsistently uncomfortable conditions. It's either too hot when it's not really cold out, or too cold when it's really hot out. It's not bad. It's not bad right now, but so I'm thinking that maybe that's the kind of project that we should be looking at. That's just one thought off the top of my head. That's because that's something that isn't really on our. I mean, it's on our radar, but it's not anywhere in the near achievable future.
And it's so frustrating, isn't it? We have this tiny, really quite tiny little envelope of money, and then we have incredible needs that we've heard about, and yet the stretching it is becoming more and more and more difficult to do. So I'll go to Mr. Becking and then Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, I would agree with the comments made by the councillor. I was feeling cold in my office, so I went down this morning and I turned on the heater, only to find out that what was coming out of the heater was colder than the room.
You can only have one or the other.
Yeah, I get it, and I'm sure I'm going to get it in spades before the winter's out.
I think there's a blanket in the club cover.
Yeah, you like your new office.
I think I would agree that this is certainly a project that would easily fit within the envelope. However, unfortunately, we're just not prepared at this point in time. So my suggestion would be, as a matter of fact, we just awarded the tender for the building condition assessment, which will be happening in the next month or two.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that council perhaps let us get through that process, find out what we're up against, and then when the next application comes through, that thing will be sitting on the shelf there ready to rock and roll.
So that was just a test to see how up to date you are in your first month, and I think you passed. Thank you very much. Just with the river precinct, can maybe Ms. Calder can just give us a quick breakdown what's in phase 1 and what's in phase 2?
Through your worship, phase 1 goes from the intersection of First Avenue East and 9th Street, so the corner at Tim Hortons, south, not quite to the Percy England Parkette. So the plan has the Percy England Parkette being extended through to the river with kind of a promenade and then a viewing point. So the terminus for phase 1 is north of that, but the planning comes down to almost that point. So the phase 1 is kind of that first section. Phase 2 would be the kind of mid-block, then south to 8th Street, and includes but isn't necessarily predicated on the reorientation of the market canopy back towards the river, creating that civic square with the library and the gallery. So.
Thank you for that overview. Councillor Lemon, then Councillor Dare, then Councillor McManaman.
Well, I agree that this building, there's spalding on the bricks. I just discovered the other day that there's spalding actually also on the north side, very low down. There is spalding there. There's spalding by the back door. And the insulation factor of these walls are somewhere between 0 and nil Rs. But also, and I'm going to go back to when I worked at CFOS, there was a massive study about doing something about the riverbanks. And I commented to my dad, who was on council at that time, and he said, Peter, there was a study years ago that I remember was going to do something about the riverbanks. We have $1 million asset flowing through Owen Sound, the Sydenham River. Not many communities have a freshwater river that is salmon, and the salmon run is certainly proof of that. And the fact that the salmon are in the river, that salmon derby actually proved that abundantly clearly. It's time we finally started to do something. There have been studies and reviews. The Downtown Harbourfront Master Plan alluded to riverbank enhancement. And if you go to Stratford and take a look at the Avon River, if you go back and look at photographs of that area where the Stratford Shakespearean Festival is, you would find it was a mud flat. and full of bulrushes, and not much else. And now look at what they have, a huge, one of the largest Ontario tourist attractions. We can make downtown strong if we enhance the riverbanks. And we're not doing it, and we're not keeping on top of it, and this would be a first step. Like today, I happened to walk up First Ave, knowing what we were going to be discussing. I walked along the riverbank from 10th Street right up to 8th Street, and discovered there are 3, I believe, dead trees between 10th and 9th, which are contravention of our bylaw. And I didn't see any dead trees in the next area from 8th to 9th to 8th. But it's just, we need to do something and start now. And we did spend money on the river precincts plan. So before another generation comes and goes, let's start doing something. And I will therefore move, if it's not already been moved, item 3. I don't know whether it was moved.
I don't believe we have a motion on the floor.
I will move item 3, and my priority would be the River Precinct Phase 1 project first, followed by the new taxiway at Billy Bishop Airport. I would like to do Phase 1 and Phase 2, but I can understand the limitations that we have financially.
This
is the backup plan. If the 7.2 doesn't go to the Marine Fire Training Center, and much as I want the riverbanks, I really think that other project is important.
Okay, I go to Councillor Adair, then Councillor McManaman, and you go.
There was a movie several years ago called Sophie's Choice, and it seems that we have to do that on a much more regular basis than I care to. When my grandfather was a small child, they used to go down to what's now known as Castle Beach to watch the First Nations people fish and make reed baskets. And it seems to me that our Castle Beach master plan is several years older than our River Precinct master plan. In fact, we make these master plans and we put them on the shelf because, of course, we don't have any money. So I'm wondering if there's some priority based on age. And I think we have an even older plan for Harrison Park. So I'm curious to know why the most recent plan that we haven't taken the action on, which is the River Precinct plan, is taking precedent over 2 other plans in which we also haven't taken any action. Now we have done some with Harrison Park, but you know we tried to do a Friends of Harrison Park, and we've tried different things to get that moving. And why this plan and not those other 2 plans?
I'm going to go to the Director of Community Services, and I think it was this council that passed a motion, but you will have more detailed information without a doubt.
Thank you, Worship. Certainly the Kelso Beach Plan, Victoria Park Plan, Harrison Park Plan, they're all significant regional parks in our community. They're all very important. They all have infrastructure needs. When Council undertook the public process to create the design for the River Precinct, at that time you said, make it part of our downtown and harborfront master plan and make it the next priority in terms of the downtown. So in that downtown and harborfront master plan, there's lots of phases. So that, you know, Council has shown its support. We are moving toward detailed design drawings. So we had the preliminary concept. Council had approved through Planning Committee retaining Northwood to do the detailed design, and we're into that process. So in terms of being kind of a project that was ready to go, it was closer than the Parks Master Plan projects, not to say that there's not lots of need.
Thank you, Your Worship. That does answer my question. Also, just on Councillor Twaddle and the City Hall reno, and I appreciate that we're developing a plan for that, but I think from an environmental stewardship focus, retrofitting this building with proper HVAC and glazed windows and all the other things that this building desperately needs is a priority, not to mention the health and safety issues that our staff are dealing with. But when this room was renovated and they tore out the ceiling, there was no insulation up there. It was just, it was the roof. It wasn't a ceiling, it was the bottom of the roof. So it was, that's also a priority, of which we have lots of and no money.
Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Your Worship. A question for the Director. 700,000 is Phase 1. What's Phase 2? What was the number?
Through Your Worship, I don't think there was a construction estimate for Phase 2.
So that would make it difficult to apply for that then, which is where I was going with that. But secondly, to the motion of Councillor Lemon, you mentioned the taxiway. That's not part of your motion, or is it? I guess because I wouldn't support. I think there's a long list of things.
My motion is that we support. It says support one of the following projects, and I'm saying the River Precinct Phase 1 project should be our priority.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Purdon?
I'm speaking in favor of this motion of Councillor Lemon's, and just reflecting on some of the other plans for different areas. Kelso Beach, Harrison Park, it's very obvious that work has happened there. There's still many needs, but there's really some wonderful new things happening both in Harrison Park and in Kelso Beach, whereas the River Precinct, I think, is rightly so a priority for us, because really nothing has been done to create a place for people around the River Precinct, and that's what that plan has given us. And I think it's a complete priority to attract new people to the community, to really maintain the direction that the downtown is taking, and just improve everything. So my only concern there is, could we not do more than 700,000? Like, I think if it's possible to do more, I don't know if there's anything else ready that could be applied for. I don't know, Councillor McManaman, I don't know if that's what you were looking at as well, or just moving, doing a bit more. Maybe there's a study, the next phase of the study for Phase 2, or maybe that's already done, but I think that is very much a priority for our community.
Thank you. Councillor Twaddle.
I was just going to point out with the River Precinct project too, we also have we also have a bit of a commitment to a couple of business and property owners in that area who contributed some money to the planning, that process, and it's kind of part of one of the major projects going forward. So I do see it as having some priority, and this is the, if not A, then B, if not the Marine Center, then the Downtown River Precinct.
Okay. Councillor Body.
I used telepathy, and I got Councillor Purdon to say everything that I wanted to. I was just, one of the things I was thinking about is I wonder if we could maybe make City Hall the gateway, the gatehouse to the River Precinct, and tie them all together. Given it's a big drop from 7.2 million, that if we don't qualify it to 700,000, I was thinking the same thing. If we could expand on that and try and figure out if we can get more for that. This is a project, the other projects are all important, every park is important. This one has an opportunity to transform downtown and transform wanting to be downtown and the whole look of the city that I think is needed, a little shot in the arm, and it's right here, it's right behind City Hall. When you start to think about the possibilities with the market and what we can do there in the long term, and how it affects downtown, I think is important. So I support that.
Okay. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, well, I guess I better speak in support of this as well, because it was part of the First Impressions program from Aurelia to explain to us how wonderful it was that they were able to walk along our riverfront and get over to the mill dam, saw the fish run, the salmon run, and there was a lot of suggestions to us on how to continue to green and make our water a very important place for us. And I think you know I'll be living on that water soon, so I will be very pleased to have river precinct.
Hopefully adjacent to. Well, everybody, oh, Councillor Lemon.
Just to wind it
Yeah,
up.
sure.
Very simply put, and Councillor Boddy alluded to it very correctly, the potential impact on the downtown is the creation of new tax revenue, because more people will come downtown as you have something attractive for them to see. And hopefully this area, the Harborfront Precinct, or River Precinct, can become an area for activities. Like I can remember as a kid, there was a chap actually floating on the river juggling while he was doing it. However, I don't think they...
Is that you?
No, it wasn't me, but I do not think they told him at that time that the main sewer line in Owen Sound was the Sydenham River. I don't think he got hepatitis or anything, but it's amazing he didn't. But we have the opportunity to have something great in the middle of our city. It'll help downtown, which helps the economy as a whole, and I think this should go as our priority. And I would agree that if you can find another $750,000, so be it. If it's 1.4, I don't have a problem with that either. Thank you.
Thank you. Some really good discussion this afternoon around all of this, and in terms of the priorities around this building and the River Precinct, I'm very supportive of moving forward with, as an alternative, the River Precinct project. Oh, Councillor Lemon.
Yeah, I would like to amend my motion slightly, not in the intent of the motion, that if we do submit the River Precinct project, that the minimum that we would be project based would be $700,000, and so it could go up from there if some reasonable projects were found. I don't know what they would be exactly, but I leave that up to the planning department because that's what planners do.
Okay, wait a second. I think we're getting a bit muddled up. I'm going to go to the city manager first, and then we've got a few other speakers.
Council, I'm hesitant to wade in because you've had such really good discussion, and anytime you mention City Hall and putting some money into it, I'm totally in favor of that. But I, in good conscience, have to remind you that we, even with the $700,000, our share is $233,000, and we have lots of projects and lots of commitments for funding right now, and I would be hesitant for you to give an indication that you wanted to go for more. You really do have to recognize your limitations right now, given the major projects that you have on board.
Well, my intent was to try and get more done, but seeing the limitation that we have, I would go with the original motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Twaddle?
I was using my telepathy and got the city manager to point out the same thing that I was going to say, that we went from zero commitment on $7.2 million to $234,000 commitment on $700,000. That's not the most favorable math in the world.
No.
We understand.
It's new math.
Ms. Coulter, did you have, okay. Oh, okay, okay, great. Just very, very briefly, just wrapping up there are other funding envelopes that could be sought after for improvements to City Hall in terms of FCM's Green Municipal Fund and all the saving. There's other envelopes, so I think the opportunities will still be there going forward. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Twaddle.
So the next item is the contract for the LED, and I would move
Thank you.
the award of the contract. Just point out, this is a really significant environmental saving and an ongoing operational cost saving. It's actually just a little bit less. We have fewer streetlights than we thought. I don't know where the rest of them went, but I think this is really important that we get this project underway. It will have significant future impact, and it's one that we've been waiting a long time for this process to become energy efficient enough that there was a business case to do it.
Thank you. Councillor Purdon.
Yes, I do support the installation of the LED lights. It's a great move, energy efficiency. I wondered, just a question about, is there any way with these new lights that we're going to increase dark skies in the community? That was the one question. And the other was just, has our lawyer reviewed the contract? We've had a whole string of kind of these weird things happening with contracts, so I started reading and gave up, but just to be sure with that.
What is city manager?
So, just because I always like to play engineer every once in a while, it actually will improve the dark sky concept because they are pointed directly down. We get better light though, more cost effectively. And I've had a brain gap here on your second question. The lawyer review. I am starting to push back a little bit on contracts that are standard in nature, and this one is with LAS, and that's a standard contract. We are significantly over our budget on legal at this point in our term, or annual. So where there is very minimal risk or very little opportunity to modify because it is such a standard contract with a partner of the city, if you will, I'm saying we may not need to do that.
I did review the contract, and I'm comfortable with it.
Councillor Purdon?
Well, I just wanted, it was just a bit of a caution because we've had this kind of legal stuff, but yeah, I'm very happy that everyone's happy with it.
Well, I'm just going to point out that in fact, we contracted LAS to do this whole project on our behalf, including selection of preferred suppliers, so we're approving the work, but LAS has done all of the due diligence on our behalf as our partner. And that all came through committee and council back when we had the presentation here.
Further discussion on this? As the unofficial person who always calls to or sends emails to the Works Department to say there's a street light out there, there's a street light out there, there's a street light out there, I'm really happy because I understand that now, once the conversion rolls in, I'll hardly ever have to do that again. So this is a good thing. There's a lot out right now, and it really, it's the broken windows theory. So good news indeed. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we have some minutes of boards and committees for approval. Bylaw Committee on September 3rd. Council's direction. Councillor Adair.
I'll move the receipt of the minutes.
Thank you. Discussion around the contents of those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Minutes of in-camera city council meetings, city council meeting and operations advisory committee meeting. Moved by Councillor Wright. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a notice of motion. Councillor Purdon.
Yes, at the last council meeting, I did move that through Freedom of Information that council request a copy of the Dillon report on Owen Sound Harbour that was prepared for Transport Canada, and that we be provided with a copy of that report for our information, for the information of our community. I made the notice of motion because I understand the report has been commissioned by Transport Canada. It speaks directly to the harbour in Owen Sound, and I think it's important information for both the city and the community to have in terms of the status of the harbour and any environmental concerns. I'm not sure why these types of reports are confidential or will not be released, and I would like to use the Freedom of Information to get a copy of that report.
Directly to the Government of Canada?
Yes.
Transport Canada?
Yeah.
Discussion? All those in, Councillor Body?
I didn't understand the motion before, but now I think I just do. You're not asking for the city to disclose, you're asking for Transport Canada to disclose. And is Dylan the main report? Is it the big report? Or was it a peer review of the big report?
As far as I can see, the Dylan report concerns, the concerns are with the status of the sediments in the Owen Sound Harbour. And that's the report I think is very important. I've gone on the Transport Canada website and tried to see if I can find out any information, but there isn't any. There is, however, a lengthy report about the harbour divestiture process and all of that, an evaluation of harbour divestiture, but no information about this report. And I think it's just very important. I've been asked in the community about people know about the existence of this report, want to know why council can't provide information, why Transport Canada can't provide that information to the community. So, and I asked at our council meeting where our MP, Larry Miller, was here about the report, and he said if we would like a copy, then we need to go through Freedom of Information. So,
and this appears to be the report that he was referring to in the press. Okay, good.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't understand your motion the last time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Councillor Twaddle.
Just to follow up on Councillor Body's question, then, should the motion refer specifically to the Dillon report and any other reports on the environmental condition of the harbour, or otherwise you're only going to get exactly what you asked for?
I would be very happy to make that as a friendly amendment. I think my concern is that the community have all the information it needs about the Owen Sound Harbour, that for whatever reason, that we should be able to access that information.
Can we CC this to our MP as well? Madam Clerk. We have a
Thank you, Your
procedural
Worship.
issue?
No, just if you could clarify the friendly amendment. I missed
Friendly
it.
amendment.
I apologize.
If you could give the words,
My
please.
understanding,
Thank you.
maybe Councillor Twaddle can help me, is that we're using a Freedom of Information to request a copy of the Dillon report on Owen Sound Harbour and any other reports relating to the environmental status of the Owen Sound Harbour. Is that about?
Okay. City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wonder if you want to rephrase it a little bit, because I think if you go that way, they will duck under any other terminology. If you said you want all of the reports related to the harbor, you might be better.
Good. Thank you.
I'm quite happy to accept any language that will give us a fighting chance of getting access to information about the Owen Sound Harbour.
My thought is that if you word it the way you had it previously, it gives them an easy out to say you're not being specific enough. But if you refer to your request as any studies related to the harbor, you'll have a better chance.
So if that's a friendly amendment from our city manager. My prime motivation here is just to be able to get information that has been prepared at the taxpayer's expense and should be available, in my mind, to the community.
Well, it is curious that we are, by other levels of government, as municipal leaders, we're always told, as municipal government, to partner and to collaborate. And we go to great strides to partner and to collaborate with others and with other levels of government. And it will be interesting to see how this is handled once it arrives in Ottawa. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We have other business. Councillor Chamberlain.
This is for information because on October 20th at 3:50 in the afternoon, the bells at St. George's Church are going to ring 350 times.
Oh.
And this is in support of the worldwide action being taken in New York City around the People's Climate March. So the 350 group in Owen Sound are hosting on the lawn in front of St. George's and in their church quite an educational opportunity that weekend. They're going to do a soup kitchen, they're going to have film screenings, they're going to have music, they're going to be making banners. So there will be quite a large gathering, mostly for education and awareness. And but you will hear the bells, and that is in support of the worldwide action, the People's Climate March that is taking place in New York. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question has been answered by the clerk.
Okay. Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship. First of all, I got some really great news for Council. As of about 8:30 this morning, there was staff on the Black Clawson Kennedy with, guess what? Weed whackers. There are 2 weed whackers there. Much to the joy of a number of residents who were out actually watching it. And so part of the problem is going to disappear, but we do have to make sure that the fill is applied if it is needed in that area so that it can be cut in the future. But at least something is now happening. I guess someone got the message loud and clear. And in that respect, last night, I forgot to make a motion asking for a report from staff on who's covering the cost of cutting the boulevard around the Black Clawson Kennedy site. It is city staff that's there. I identified them. And maybe the city manager can answer now.
City manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Lemon, we did discover that, in fact, it has been city staff. It's a hangover from past practice. It is my suggestion we allow them to continue to cut the boulevard to the end of this season, but that we then indicate to BCK that we aren't going to be cutting it in the future.
Good. I think that's reasonable, particularly with the fact that they are going to be busy whacking weeds probably for about 4 or 5 days in there. And that's great. The other thing is that when the police chief was here, he mentioned that there were some geese that called that area home in the spring, and there were. Well, there were ducks. Oh, lame ducks. Oh, yeah, there were lame ducks. But there was also a fairly large skunk population. No, we let their people chase the skunks. But these black and whites are not police cars. These are, and one of the skunks I saw this summer probably weighed about 35 pounds. She was huge. And so it's getting cleaned up. So that's starting to move in the right direction after much frustration, and that's good news. The other thing is I wanted to comment on something, and I was down at the Salmon Derby, as some of council were, and when I was down there, I was talking to a large number of people from way outside this area, like St. Thomas and Kingston, and all over Ontario, and I really think that it would be nice to somehow congratulate the SSA for the terrific tourism activity that they create. I ate a lot of fish. I ate too much fish, actually. And the music was great. It really is something unique to Owen Sound, and this is the kind of uniqueness that will sell our community. So I just wanted to comment on the excellent job they did. And the fish was delicious. The fish was delicious, and we were certainly supporting Ontario industry with the beverages. The other thing was the music was incredibly fantastic, and it was a great time was had by all. But I just wanted to say that we should sort of, in the back of our minds, keep some way of recognizing that event and the positive it does for the community in terms of tourism. I'm not suggesting anything at this point because I don't know exactly what we could do. But I really, when you think about, I don't know, 3,000 to 4,000 people coming for dinner, that's a fairly large dinner plan.
That just sounds like a lot of work. That's a lot of fish.
I did mention the fish was delicious.
You did. Oh, you did. Thank you. Councillor Purdon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just would like people to know that on October 4th, here at City Hall in the front steps is going to be a Sisters in Spirit event. That's a gathering to recognize murdered and lost Aboriginal women and Indigenous women across Canada. There's been a great deal of media attention in the last while about the need for an inquiry or a roundtable. I think the provincial governments have agreed upon a roundtable looking at missing and murdered Aboriginal women. The Sisters in Spirit is a national event that's been going on. This will be the 3rd year. And in Owen Sound, this is our 2nd year marking this event. So I'd like to invite anybody who's listening and any councillors who'd like to come to gather at 1 o'clock. And later there'll be a reception at the Métis Centre, which is downstairs at the United Way. And they have an exhibit called the Faceless Doll exhibit that they'll have there, and the refreshments and a chance for people to meet and talk. It's a collaborative initiative between the Aboriginal community and our violence prevention group and several other groups in the community. So just invite everyone. And the other, I didn't talk about this last night at the other half of our meeting, but I got an email that Tim Nichols-Harrison has won this amazing award in the province of Ontario. It's been recognized for a literacy award. One person from each province is chosen by the premiers, and at the premiers conference in PEI that was announced. It's an amazing recognition of not only his work but the importance of the literacy community in Owen Sound and area, and of course of Tim's amazing leadership. So I just wanted everyone to know that if they hadn't heard.
I've asked Sharon to invite Mr. Harrison, Nichols-Harrison, to an upcoming council meeting so we can celebrate this this recognition with him. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Madam Clerk, did you have another item? That was okay. We do not need to rise, but we do need to go down the hall to finish our in-camera, and that's in room 205. The basement boardroom is booked. We have one short item, and then some of us have to get to the funeral home. So thank you.